Hello, I'm Matthew Malcolm with Vegetables West Magazine, reporting to you from the CAPCA annual conference. I'm here with John Palumbo. He was actually got special recognition this year as the Outstanding Contribution to Agriculture Special Award given by CAPCA. So congratulations on that. While I've got you here, it's not too often we get to have you here to California from Arizona. So he's the university extension specialist there based in Yuma at the University of Arizona. Could you tell us, it's been an interesting season, right, for the vegetable crops in Yuma. Tell us about it.
Right. Yeah, it started early with we've had a lot of active monsoon, a lot of monsoon activity, both rainfall, but more so the humidity. And humidity is tough on crops, especially germinating crops, because we're basically trying to germinate cool season crops in 100, 110, 115 degree weather with that humidity. It's real tough. So the crops are struggling. There were a lot of skippy stands in some locations. Some of the transplanted crops struggle more so than not due to that high humidity and heat, more so than a little bit more so than normal. And then you couple on top of that, insects love hot weather, and that humidity really does it. The other thing that we had that was unusual this year, we haven't seen in the last couple years, we had Hurricane K come up off of Cabo. Cabo San Lucas came up, hit the southern deserts. It didn't really deliver a lot of rainfall, but what it did is it brought a lot of wind. And we think between the monsoon storms, which are bringing winds and moisture out of the Gulf of Mexico, and then you have this hurricane coming out of the Gulf of California, we've had some really odd situations with pests. The first incident happened about the 1st of September with the white-lined sphinx moth. We see that little hawk moth flying around at night. Well, its larvae are what we call hornworms. And we were seeing them and literally migrating by the thousands off of purslane, which happens to be one of its hosts. And they were off these fallow fields, off the desert, migrating the first 2 weeks in September onto these newly established produce fields. There was a lot of concern. A lot of people were worried. I had never seen it before. I was worried. As it turns out, almost no damage. They don't particularly care for brassica crops or lettuce crops. So we dodged a big bullet, but it was kind of exciting to see all of those, literally thousands and thousands moving. We had another instance where, and again, I think related to things being blown in on some of these storms, we had a new pest, to me anyway. I've been down in Yuma for 32 years and never seen this pest, although we have found out that it's been in Arizona before, called the cabbage budworm. It looks very similar to the cabbage webworm, does the same thing, and that is it lays its eggs on the terminal growth of transplants and other brassicas and bores right into the stem and basically eats the stem out and causes the plant to be blind, or it'll actually kill that plant in some cases. So it was kind of isolated to a couple of areas. It's not widespread. The organic growers got hit the hardest because they have a hard time controlling pests like that. Right. So really, those have been the big two things, and then we've had just our normal insect pressure. And then I know areas like Coachella Valley and Imperial Valley, they've had some issues with bagrata bug, which we haven't seen for several years. Well, here they are. And again, a lot of times they're most troublesome in the organic crops because you don't have a lot of alternatives. Right. So we've seen our fair share of pest pressure, and I truly, based on my experiences, think have a lot to do with this extended monsoon season we've seen this year, plus that hurricane that came up from the Gulf of California.
Right, that's quite a whirlwind of of activity this year, huh?
A day in the life of a desert grower.
So, as growers move forward into the coming years, how do you think they can better prepare for some of these interesting weather events? Because there are changing patterns and weather events that we're not used to experiencing.
Yeah, I think what you're going to see a lot of is a lot of these seed companies are going to start to transition to different varieties that are maybe more drought tolerant, perhaps more heat tolerant, particularly the cool season vegetables. I think that whole seed industry, that's going to be a lot of the answer to a lot of our problems. And so I think they are ahead of the curve, if you will, in trying to develop site-specific desert versus coast type things. That's one big thing. Beyond that, I think it's just, PCAs, growers have to be on their toes. And as I tell my class all the time that PCAs are just armchair meteorologists because they're constantly looking at the weather. Is it going to rain? Is it going to blow? Can I spray? Can I not? Blah, blah, blah. Look, is the temperature going to drop as a consequence? So with the insect activity, or is the humidity coming up and the disease? All those factors come into play. So I think with technology the way it is now, they have much more access to, as good as we can do in terms of predicting the weather. I think that's going to be a big factor that people are going to really start to hone in on. But I think there's a lot of changes coming down the road for the desert, mainly water. We don't know what's going to happen. We know something's going to happen because there's a finite source of water at this point, and probably will be with the population growth in all these major cities. So there's going to be changes. We don't know what it is, how it will be. It's not going to disappear, but that's going to be challenging. It's going to be really interesting to see how not just the changing in the cropping landscape, but how that affects or impacts all the pests around it. Undoubtedly, that'll likely change as well. So it's going to be an exciting few years. And I think I was just talking to a guy at lunch about this. Is that industry? I've been around it for 32 years now, and there's been crisis after crisis after crisis. They always adapt. They always figure it out. And it may be painful, it may be expensive, but they'll figure it out. That's my opinion.
Well, hey, it's optimistic. So,
yeah, absolutely.
So thank you, John, for taking the time. Read more about vegetable IPM in Vegetables West magazine. I'm Matthew Malcolm, CaliforniaAgNet.com.